What happens when the heart you've poured into someone else's child turns to ash, and the one person you thought you could trust betrays you in the end? My name is Clara, and for 4 years, I live in a house where love was a one-way street, paved with sacrifice and swept clean by my own hands. This is the story of how I became a servant in my own home and how a single choice changed everything. When I married Tom, I knew I was stepping into a complicated world. He was a widower with a teenage daughter, Sophie, whose mother had passed when she was 10. At 16, Sophie was a storm of grief and defiance, her sharp green eyes slicing through me the moment we met. I told myself I could handle it. I'd always wanted a family, and even if Sophie wasn't my own, I vowed to love her like she was. Tom, with his warm smile and promises of a shared future, made it seem possible. But promises are fragile things, easily broken under the weight of reality. The first year was hard but bearable. Sophie ignored me, her silence louder than any argument. I cooked her favorite meals, lasagna with extra cheese, pancakes on weekends, hoping to win her over. I drove her to school, attended her soccer games, and stayed up late helping with algebra homework she barely acknowledged. Tom assured me she'd come around. "She's just hurting," he'd say, squeezing my hand. I believed him. I wanted to. By the second year, Sophie's silence turned to venom. She'd snap at me for small things, leaving a dish in the sink, folding her clothes wrong. She'd demand I clean her room, cook specific meals, or run errands at a moment's notice. "You're not my mom," she'd hiss, "so just do what I say." I swallowed my hurt, telling myself it was teenage rebellion, that she needed time. But time only tightened the noose. Tom, always at work or too tired to intervene, left me to navigate her storms alone. I became the maid, the cook, the driver, anything but a stepmother. The house felt like a cage. Sophie's demands grew relentless. She'd leave dirty dishes on the counter, knowing I'd wash them. She'd scream if dinner wasn't ready by 6, even when I'd spent the day juggling my part-time job and her endless errands. Once, she threw a glass of juice on the floor because it wasn't the brand she liked. I cleaned it up, my hands shaking, while she smirked and walked away. I stopped telling Tom about these moments. His responses were always the same. "She's just a kid. Be patient." Patience became my prison. One night, in the third year, I broke. Sophie had screamed at me for forgetting to iron her favorite shirt, calling me useless. I stood in the kitchen, tears burning my eyes, and realized I was disappearing. The woman who loved painting, who dreamed of opening an art studio, was gone. In her place was a shadow, scrubbing floors to keep the peace. I confronted Tom that night, my voice raw. "I can't keep doing this," I said. "She treats me like a slave, and you let her." He sighed, rubbing his temples. "Clara, she's my daughter. What do you want me to do?" That was the moment I knew I was alone in this. Then came the twist I never saw coming. One evening, as I scrubbed pots after another of Sophie's tantrums, the doorbell rang. A woman stood there, her face lined with exhaustion, but eerily familiar. "I'm Ellen," she said. "Sophie's aunt. Her mother's sister." I froze. Tom had never mentioned an aunt. Ellen explained she'd been estranged from the family after a falling out with Tom years ago, but had recently moved back to town. She'd heard about me through mutual friends and wanted to meet the woman raising her niece. Over coffee, Ellen listened as I poured out my story. Her eyes softened with understanding. "My sister was like Sophie," she said. "She pushed people away to hide her pain. But you don't deserve this." Ellen's arrival changed everything. She started visiting Sophie, taking her out for weekends, giving me a break I hadn't realized I needed. Sophie resisted at first, but Ellen's no-nonsense warmth cracked her defenses. I saw glimpses of a softer Sophie, a girl who laughed at Ellen's bad jokes, who helped her aunt garden. For the first time, I felt hope. Maybe Sophie could heal. Maybe I could too. But hope is a fragile thing. By Sophie's senior year, she was applying to colleges, her sights set on an expensive private university. Tom had always promised to pay her tuition, a vow he repeated often. I supported her applications, writing recommendation letters, and helping with essays, even as she barely thanked me. I thought we were turning a corner. Then one night, I overheard Tom on the phone. "I'm not paying for it," he said, his voice cold. "She's been nothing but trouble. Let her figure it out." My heart sank. He was talking about Sophie. I confronted him later, my voice trembling. "You're not paying her tuition? After everything?" Tom shrugged, his face hard. "She's not my responsibility anymore. She's 18. And honestly, Clara, you've enabled her behavior." The words hit like a slap. Enabled? I'd been her punching bag, her servant, for years, and he'd done nothing to stop it. Now he was abandoning her and blaming me. The next day, I told Sophie. I expected rage, tears, maybe even violence. Instead, she went quiet, her face pale. "He can't do this," she whispered. For the first time, I saw fear in her eyes. She wasn't the untouchable queen anymore. She was a scared kid, facing a future without the safety net she'd always assumed. I should have felt vindicated, but all I felt was pity. Ellen stepped in again. She offered to help Sophie apply for scholarships and loans, even inviting her to live with her while attending community college. "She needs to learn responsibility," Ellen told me. "But she also needs someone to believe in her." I nodded, realizing Ellen was giving Sophie what I tried to give for years: love with boundaries. I left Tom a month later. The decision was agonizing but inevitable. I'd spent 4 years pouring myself into a family that didn't want me, and I couldn't do it anymore. I moved into a small apartment, started painting again, and felt pieces of myself return. Sophie and I don't talk much, but when we do, there's a cautious respect. She's changed Ellen's influence, maybe, or the weight of her father's betrayal. Last I heard, she was thriving in college, working part-time to cover what scholarships don't. Looking back, I don't regret loving Sophie. I regret letting myself disappear in the process. Her father's refusal to pay her tuition wasn't just a betrayal of her, it was a mirror, showing me how little he valued either of us. I learned that love isn't enough if it comes at the cost of your own soul. And sometimes, the family you choose to build isn't the one that chooses you back. But in the end, I found my way out of the cage. And maybe, just maybe, Sophie did too.